Okay, number 18 is asking for the domain and the range for the situation. So, what's going on? The function consists of these ordered pairs. So, the x values would be the domain, the y values would be the range. So, this one is very simple. 52, 72, 86, 105, and then the range would be 3, 4, 5, and 6. Just that simple. Number 19. I need the domain and range. Okay, look. There is the function. So let's write f of x equals x over 20 instead of f of c. That means right here, it's telling you that x the domain would be cars. And then right here it says the ferry boat trips, f of c. That's your y, f of x. This is written in function notation. Now it says if there are no more than 6,000 cars, if there are no more than 6,000 cars, that means I'm giving you the maximum domain. So of course I started with 0. There were no cars. Oh. And now we want to look at what happens when you have 6,000. 0 cars, of course, 0 trips. So what do we do with the x value? We plug it in. Now you're taking 600 and splitting it in half, so it's now 300. So what's the domain? From 0 to 6,000, but be careful. Is this a discrete example or continuous example? The last example was discrete. And we know it's discrete because of the way we wrote our answer choices. We have the commas. Distinct points. Not everything between, just these numbers. And of course we know 86 and 105 both go inside of there. Inside of my brackets. Okay. So is this example describing a discrete situation? Well, of course. You can't have half a car or a fourth of a car. So it's time to report our answer for the domain. And I'm not writing 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have to be careful how you word it. Let's use words to describe the domain. Okay, let's just say set of all integers that are greater than 0, but less than 6,000. So, from 0 to 6,000. Because if you don't word it this way, you're going to have to do this. And I'm cheating, because really I need to write all of those numbers between it. The range would be the set of all integers from, put too many M's there, from 0 to 300. So be careful. Your discrete examples, 90% of the time, have your brackets. But then you have a time or two where you have to actually write out what that means. And for those that are saying you can't have 0 cars, well, to each its own is what some people would say. Nonetheless, let's move on. It's a way of saying no cars, no trips. And we know that this is a possible value because this is a function. And in this function, x can be 0. So 0 divided by 20 is just 0. That means it goes through the origin. Okay. Number 20. The total cost of renting a banquet hall is a function of the number of hours the hall is rented. Beautiful. Now, I see here, and I know this is exactly what you're going to do, 105 per hour. So I have my rate, my slope. 105 times x plus my initial fee, $40 fee. So here is my equation. We've already talked about this being our rate, our slope. And then we've already talked about the y-intercept being the starting fee. We've also talked about this being that one fee you have to pay in addition to whatever else is going on. Now that I have my equation, I can go ahead and figure out the greatest value in the range. We've been writing for quite some time now, because when we did the linear regression in the calculator, it gave us M, it gave us B, then it gave us R squared, which we did not use, and then R. But we used M and B to write the best fit line. This time I'm not using the calculator. I'm just putting in M and putting in B. Okay, so it says I want to so the owner of the banquet hall is going to charge this, but only up to 4 hours. So I have a maximum amount of 4 hours. So we're talking about renting. The total cost of renting. Okay, so we're going to rent for a maximum of 4 hours. Now you said 105x, and that's 105 times x. X would be hours. Time is always independent. Excuse me, time is always independent. Now, ooh, look at this. The total cost is a function of hours. Y equals f of x. X would be hours. Y is the total cost. Maximum of 4 hours, so 0, 40, of course. We start with the y-intercept. Now we could just use the slope to create our table. Go up 105, up 1, because this is 105 over 1. Up 105, up 1, up 105, up 1. Or we could just use the calculator, plug in our equation, look at the table, and figure out what the y value is when x is 4. We could go to, well, let's just do it. Control Doc. Well, let's just go to the home screen. And there we go. Go over to the graphing screen. Type in our equation, 105x plus 40. Okay. Press enter. Menu 5, 1. Type 4. The answer is 460. We could press Control T. Domain value, range value. That's the same thing as plugging in the 4 into the function and getting the answer. Or we could plug in the 4. Ta-da! Isn't that beautiful? So the maximum, the greatest value in the range would be 460. That's the answer. Okay, now be careful here. If you were actually going to write out the domain and write out the range, do you know how to do that? Is this a discrete problem or continuous?